great to be here again. And of course, we are here due to the generosity of the Pikes Peak Economics Club. So please give them a hand. Club was founded in 2005. It's grown from a casual gathering, it says, in a private home, and now they're filling up a library at a local charter school. Club's mission is to promote economic and civil literacy. It is a contention of the club that you cannot have a controlled economy and maintain a free society. They meet on the first Tuesday of each month at the Vanguard School Library in Colorado Springs. You can also see them through live video and a chat page. So if you can't make it to Colorado Springs, get online and see them. Paul Prentice is their president, and Dr. Prentice is here today. He served as the chief macroeconomist for the U.S. Department of Agriculture under Presidents Carter and Reagan. He was also a visiting scholar, U.S. Department of Treasury under President Clinton. He earned his BA in mathematics, PhD in ag economics, University of Connecticut. He's been teaching AP economics at the Vanguard School in Colorado Springs. He is a founding faculty and professor of economics at Yorktown University. He's an adjunct scholar for the Ludwig von Mises Institute, senior fellow for the Independence Institute, fellow for the Centennial Institute of the Colorado Christian University, adjunct faculty, University of Colorado, Colorado Springs, board member, Limited Government Forum, board member, Urban League, board member, Pikes Peak Tea Party. So please give a round of applause for Paul Prentice. Well, we have a number of people here from a number of states, and the money you pay to support this event allows us to offer scholarships for students. We have 18 students from 17 schools, and if they would stand today for a round of applause. We have some students here. So not all those kids are out there learning Marxism and Keynesianism, at least not today. We have people from 19 states, Guatemala, and Switzerland. So isn't that amazing? Yeah. So people from all over come to Colorado Springs, and I'd like to remind you to please find the bookstore. It's right out front as you came in. We've got lots of free stuff to give you, but it doesn't mean that we don't want you to buy some things. So we have a number of books out there. We do have a free book at your table by Lou Carabini. It's called Inclined to Liberty, and it's a wonderful little book that is a great thing to give friends who haven't decided that freedom's the best idea. So if you have any friends like that, probably hard to imagine, but you might want to give them that book. So there is also information out there about the Mises Academy, and this is kind of our latest venture that we undertook last spring. We had a couple hundred students last spring. We had 300 during the summer, and I think we're at 400 or 500 online taking classes through the Mises Institute. And it's been wonderfully successful so far, and we expect great things from it. So if you're interested in this, please, and interested in online education, please pick up one of these nice brochures up there. Something that we do at all of these events now is a sign-up sheet for email addresses. Now, we don't sell these lists. We don't give them to anybody. There's people that want them, but they're just for you. to interact with yourselves. If you want to get together later, you discovered today that there are people that think like you, and you want to get together and meet or do whatever, overturn the government. We have a sign-up sheet for, yeah, thank you. We have a sign-up sheet for email addresses out front. So take advantage of that to connect with people here locally. The Ludwig von Mises Institute was started in 1982, and we're a research and educational center for Austrian economics, classical liberalism, and libertarian political theory. And we have a website that's about 1 million people show up to every month. So we have a very wide reach online, and this is all made possible by generous donors. And if you want to help us in our endeavors, if you sign up today as a member of the Mises Institute, we will give you this book, Reassessing the Presidency. All your favorites are here: Abraham Lincoln, FDR, Bill Clinton, LBJ, they're all here. And you'll find out the truth about them. So sign up today. It's a big book. If you don't like the guys, you can probably kill mice with it or something like that. But we do have one of the authors here, at least one. Tom Woods has a piece in this. And Yuri Maltsev has a piece in this. So it would be wonderful for you to sign up with the Mises Institute today, get a copy of Reassessing the Presidency, and have Tom sign and Yuri sign, and you've really got quite a collector's item. So keep that in mind if you want to help out the cause. We don't take any government money, not that they're offering, but we wouldn't take it even if they gave it. So, and we can't print our own. I don't know, it's something else. So anyway, we can't print our own, and we need money to keep on keeping on, so you can help us do that. Well, it's time for the show, and as usual, I lead off the show so that I can get the good speakers on later. So I am your warm-up act today. And, it's always good to lead a speech with a quote, probably from the best writer there ever was, H.L. Mencken. And H.L. Mencken described politicians as men who, at some time or another, have compromised with their honor, either by swallowing their convictions or by whooping for what they believe to be untrue. Vanity remains to him, Mencken wrote, but not pride. The sage of Baltimore had it correct, that to be elected and stay elected in American politics to any full-time position requires the suspension of any ethics or good sense a person may possess. Even those who begin political careers with the best intentions and have measurable abilities that would make them successful in any field soon realize that the skills required to succeed in politics are not those required outside politics. Now, Lou Rockwell explains that while competition in the marketplace improves quality, competition in politics does just the opposite. The only improvements take place in the process of doing bad things: lying, cheating, manipulating, stealing, and killing. The price of political service is constantly increasing, whether in tax dollars paid or in the bribes owed for protection, also known as campaign contributions. There is no obsolescence, either planned or otherwise. Now, F.A. Hayek famously argued in his book, The Road to Serfdom, that in politics, the worst get to the top, and outlined 3 reasons that this is so. First, Hayek makes the point that people of higher intelligence have different tastes and views. So as Hayek writes, We have to descend to the regions of lower moral and intellectual standards where the more primitive instincts prevail, to have uniformity of opinion. Second, he said, those on top must gain the support of the docile and the gullible, who are ready to accept whatever values and ideology is drummed into them. Totalitarians depend on those who are guided by their passions and their emotions rather than critical thinking. Finally, leaders don't promote a positive agenda, but a negative one of hating an enemy and envy of the wealthy. To appeal to the masses, leaders preach an us against them program. Advancement within a totalitarian group or party depends largely on the willingness to do immoral things, Hayek explains. The principle that the end justifies the mean, which in individualist ethics is regarded as the denial of all morals, in collectivist ethics becomes necessarily the supreme rule. Now, those wishing to get elected and stay elected, they must be prepared to break every moral rule he or she ever knew if the ends justify it. Economist Frank Knight notes that those in authority, quote, would have to do these things whether they wanted to or not. And the probability of the people in power being individuals who would dislike the possession and exercise of power is on the level with the possibility that an extreme, tender-hearted person would get the job of whipping master in a slave plantation. But even as the pathological gain these high positions in government, they freely use the word freedom to describe their program. Collective freedom is promised, which does not mean freedom for individual members of society, but instead is unlimited freedom of the government planner to do with society what he pleases. And there is no accountability the higher one gets into office. The higher one gets, the more criminal wrongdoing a person can get away with. This is because thus it becomes a psychic impossibility for a gentleman to hold office under the federal union, wrote Mencken. Democracy makes it possible for the demagogue to inflame the childish imagination of the masses by virtue of his talent for nonsense. The king can do the same in a monarchy, but only by virtue of his birth. Now, in stark contrast, in the natural order, as Hans Hermann Hoppe explains in his monumental work, Democracy, the God That Failed, it is private property, production, and voluntary exchange that are the ultimate sources of human civilization. This natural order, Hoppe notes, must be maintained by a natural elite, which would come by these positions of natural authority, not by election, as in the case of democracy, or birth, as in the case of monarchy, but by their superior achievements of wealth, wisdom, bravery, or the combination thereof. This is just the opposite of what Mencken and Rockwell describe as the characteristic of democracy. Now, Hoppe writes in a pamphlet that he wrote, Natural Elites, Intellectuals in the State, that a few individuals in each society rise to elite status by their talent. Due to superior achievements of, again, wealth, wisdom, and bravery, writes Hoppe, these individuals come to possess natural authority, and their opinions and judgments enjoy widespread respect. Moreover, because of selective mating, marriage, and the laws of civil and genetic inheritance, positions of natural authority are likely to be passed on within a few noble families. It is to the heads of these families, with long-established records of superior achievement, farsightedness, and an exemplary personal conduct, that men turn to their conflicts and complaints against each other. These leaders of the natural elite act as judges and peacemakers, often free of charge out of a sense of duty expected of a person of authority or out of concern for civil justice as a privately produced public good. Now, on the other hand, democracy affords the opportunity for anyone to pursue politics as a career. There is no need for the masses to recognize a person as a wise or successful person, as Hoppe's natural order would require, nor does one have to be born into a ruling family, as in the case of a monarchy. As the great American comedian Bob Hope once said, he who was actually born in England, he once quipped, "I left England at the age of 4 when I found out I couldn't be king." Maybe because he knows he can never have Prince Charles' job, Sir Richard Branson, knighted for services to entrepreneurship, sticks to business and reportedly operates 360 companies. But as Hoppe explains, democracies have expanded and since World War I have been viewed as the only legitimate form of government. In turn, more people who have been successful in other pursuits are running for political office or becoming politically active. For instance, more and more wealthy billionaires are entering the political arena. And while wealthy tycoons of previous generations coveted their privacy and tended to live in seclusion, today's captains of industry, such as Ross Perot or Michael Bloomberg, Carly Fiorina, Meg Whitman, or John Corzine, they either have run for office or are running for office. And while Warren Buffett, Bill Gates, and George Soros haven't sought public office themselves, they spend millions of dollars on political contributions and are visible in trying to sway the public debate on political issues, when their time would obviously be spent more productively creating more wealth. Also, it should be noted that 1/4 of all House members and 1/3 of all members of the Senate are millionaires. Now, there may be politicians that pursue elective office for the money, but many elective officials are already wealthy by most people's standards. What makes the wealthy and otherwise successful want to hold office? Is it what Charles Derber describes in his book, The Pursuit of Attention, Power and Ego in Everyday Life, that politicians since Caesar and Napoleon have been driven by overweening egos and an insatiable hunger for public adulation? Well, the work of psychologist Abraham Maslow may provide an understanding as to why even successful entrepreneurs would seek office. Maslow is famous for his hierarchy of needs, theory that is taught in most management classes in American universities. Now, the theory is generally presented visually as a pyramid, with the lowest, most basic need, the physiological need, shown as a layer along the base of the pyramid. Maslow's view was that the basic human needs, thirst, hunger, breathing, must be satisfied before humans could accomplish or worry about anything else. The next tranche within that pyramid, shown on top of the physiological need, is the safety need. After satisfying thirst and hunger, humans are concerned about their continued survival. A person who's constantly worrying about being eaten by a tiger doesn't concern himself with much else. The next layer presented in Maslow's pyramid is the belonging need, which lies just above the safety need. After the satisfaction of the two lower needs, physiological and safety, a person seeks love and friendships, companionship and community. And once this need is satisfied, according to Maslow, humans seek esteem. Now, these 4 needs are considered deficit needs. If a person is lacking, there is a motivation to fill that need. Once that particular need is filled, the motivation abates. This makes these needs different from the need at the top of Maslow's pyramid, the need for self-actualization. The need for self-actualization is never satisfied, and Maslow referred to it as being a being need, or a be all you can be. Thus, humans continually strive to satisfy their needs, and as the more basic needs are satisfied, humans move up the pyramid, if you will, to satisfy higher level needs. Of course, different humans achieve different levels, and it was Maslow's view that only 2% of humans ever reach self-actualization. And he studied the traits of a number of famous people, along with a few not-so-famous folks, and Maslow developed some personality traits that were consistent with people who he judged to be self-actualizing. Besides being creative and inventive, self-actualizers have strong ethics, a self-deprecating sense of humor, humility, and respect for others, resistance to enculturation, enjoyment of autonomy and solitude instead of shallow relationships with many people. They believe the ends don't justify the means, and that the means can be ends in themselves. So one readily sees that Maslow's self-actualizers have nothing in common with politicians in a democracy, but closely fit the profile that Hoppe describes of the natural elites that would lead a natural order. But step down from the top of the hierarchy of needs pyramid, and that need is esteem. Now, Maslow described two types of esteem needs. According to Maslow expert C. George Bourret, a lower esteem need and a higher one. And while the higher form of esteem calls for healthy attributes such as freedom, independence, confidence, and achievement, the lower form is the need for respect of others, the need for status, fame, glory, recognition, attention, reputation, appreciation, dignity, even dominance. The negative version of these needs is low self-esteem and inferiority complexes. Dr. Bourret writes, Maslow felt that Alfred Adler was really into something when he proposed that these were at the roots of many, if not most, of our psychological problems. Now we see the qualities displayed by virtually all politicians in democracy: the constant need for status and recognition, the ends compensating for a inferiority complex justify whatever Machiavellian means. Because democracy is open to any and all who can get themselves elected either through connections, personality, or personal wealth, it is a social system where leadership positions have become a hotbed for sociopaths. Maslow's self-actualizing man wouldn't have any interest in politics, but those stuck on the need for esteem are drawn to it like flies to cow patties. Even religious philosophers recognize the shortcomings of those in power. St. Augustine wrote about the story of the just war and held a different worldview from his predecessors, lacking the usual optimism that man strives to comprehend the ultimate verities, live in orderly fashion, and find his way to God. Augustine was pessimistic of human nature, believing men weren't inclined toward righteousness, but instead had a tendency toward doing evil as the result of Adam's fall, pride, vanity, and libido domini, the lust for domination, which entice men towards waging wars and committing all manner of violence. Judge Andrew Napolitano made a point during a speech at Mises University this summer that libido domini is the thing in human nature that attracts people into government in order that they may dominate their fellow man. That the same brilliant men who founded the United States government, wrote a law as repugnant as the Alien and Sedition Acts. Now, Hoppe recognized that natural elites have responsibilities that extend far beyond themselves and their families. The more successful they are as businessmen and professionals, and the more others recognize them as successful, the more important it is that they set an example, that they strive to live up to the highest standards of ethical conduct. This means accepting as their duty, indeed their noble duty, to support openly, proudly, and as generously as they possibly can the values that they have recognized as right and true. They receive in return intellectual inspiration, nourishment, and strength, as well as the knowledge that their name will live forever as outstanding individuals who rose above the masses and made a lasting contribution to mankind. On the other hand, in democracy, politicians demand attention now, seeking acclaim for anything they do, continually taking credit for policies they say have made our lives better, when in fact, these interventions have made our lives worse. There is no need to list the names of politicians who have committed crimes or ethics violations. That would take all day. With leadership in such dysfunctional hands, it's no wonder, in comparison to the 19th century, the cognitive prowess of the political and intellectual elites and the quality of public education have declined, Hoppe writes, in democracy. And the rates of crime, structural unemployment, welfare dependency, negligence, recklessness, incivility, and hedonism have increased. So while the electorate recognizes that they are electing at best incompetents and at worst crooks, the constant naive pro-democracy mantra is that we just need to elect the right people. But the right people aren't and won't be running for office. Instead, we will continue to have the average American legislator who is not only an ass, as Mencken wrote, but also an oblique, sinister, depraved, and knavish fellow. Well, so do we just throw up our hands? Is it hopeless? No. Hoppe wrote, it can safely be predicted that the democratic welfare state will collapse. And what is necessary besides a crisis is ideas, correct ideas, and men capable of understanding and implementing those ideas once the opportunity arises. So the natural elites have an obligation to make sure the truth is spread. Mises and Rothbard were only able to make themselves heard through the support of others. Lawrence Fertig and others supported Mises. The Mises Institute donors supported Rothbard's work. As Hoppe writes, once upon a time in a pre-democratic age, when the spirit of egalitarianism had not yet destroyed most men of independent wealth and independent minds and judgments, their task of supporting unpopular intellectuals was taken on by individuals. Hoppe explains that this is nearly impossible in this day and age. He points out that a person's first obligation is to make as much money as he can, because the more money he makes, the more beneficial he has been to his fellow man. But the natural elites extend beyond that. It is for them to support the truth. The outstanding individuals of the Pikes Peak Economics Club are the natural elites that made today's program possible. They have accepted their duty to fight evil, even though they may never see the benefit. I want to thank you, Pikes Peak Economics Club, for keeping alive the truths of private property, free markets, and personal responsibility. Not only are we in your debt, but future generations will be in your debt as well. Thank you.